Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Solid Rock, Minnesota podcast. It's a place to swing by for a brief moment for some stories and news and things to ponder. It's a place to take a small pause from your busy life. So grab yourself a cup of coffee or a mug of tea or a pop, as we like to call it here in the North Country, and kick back for a moment. Take a breather. We spent many mornings either on the phone or at the financial investor's office over the past 5 weeks or so, trying to get all our finances in order so we can officially say we're retired. It's been hard to imagine that after many decades of planning and sometimes like making decisions between a gallon of gas and a gallon of milk, we finally are getting to reap the benefits of an income without going down the road to work. It's a weird feeling, just having money going into the bank accounts like the paychecks used to go in. It almost feels illegal. It's been a little over a month now since my best half retired and no longer has to get up at 4 a.m. and travel that 50 miles one way to work each day. Many have asked us how it's going and if we are adjusting, so I thought maybe a little update was in order. Week 1 left us both a little dazed after many get-togethers and retirement parties for him at the clinics he worked at. His last week of work was spent finishing things he had going on at the clinics and then saying goodbye to his coworkers and supervisors alike. For 38 years, he worked at these clinics with many of the same people. His very last drive up north and back home on his last day left him a little bit reflective and a little bit freaked out too, the wondering if he made the right decision to retire a year earlier than he had planned. The first week or so, many hours were spent quietly processing his decision and beginning to adjust to a new sleep schedule. The first few days, he finally stayed up past 9 p.m. and woke up about 8 a.m. When the third morning came and it was getting a little past 8 o'clock, I suggested we maybe needed to get on a little earlier wake-up schedule, earlier at least than 8 o'clock, because after all, things had to get done and there were places to go and people to see. So week 1 was pretty much a quiet week of letting him kind of process all the changes that have come with retiring. Phase 1 of retirement, as we call it. Week 2 of retirement passed with him up and at it by about 7 or 7:30 every morning. He really did have things to do and places to go and people to see. The garage furnace was turned on and he spent a good part of his days out there reorganizing his space and tools and such. And he spent time finishing up things that got kind of set aside when he was working full-time. We now have a well-organized garage that 2 vehicles could easily fit into if we wanted. But I really have never seen a Minnesota garage that cars are actually parked in it. It's usually the more important items like boats and snowmobiles or the snow thrower or ATV with the plow. But he now has space, his space, that he can work on things like the snowblower and the vehicles. The Jeep, the van, the truck, and Big Eddie all have washer fluid and oil levels and brake levels and antifreeze, all the levels where they should be. And I usually have a list of things needing his attention. So for me, his retirement has so far been awesome because things are getting done that he never had time to do when he was working. Well, week 3 was spent going up the road to the neighbor's house a few times a day to take care of their German Shepherd while they were down at Mayo doing some medical things for a few days during the week. Annie, the dog, and my best half had fun playing frisbee and chatting together. It was a good thing for him to do as he's always been a little scared of other dogs. When he was a little guy, he was attacked by a collie and had stitches in his head and face, in which he still has scars. So Annie did a good deed by being his buddy that week. The only problem was that his girl Zoe, our lab, got Annie's scent on him and was a little more clingy to him than normal. And finally, in the past few weeks, I do believe he's settling into retirement and beginning to enjoy the lifestyle of not having to go up and down the road to work daily. He's developed a sort of routine which involves getting many things done around the house he's wanted to do, getting into his hobbies like rock polishing and jewelry making with the rocks, and running errands without me. We have discovered that as long as I hate shopping so much, he's going to take on that responsibility. Sometimes I go with him and just sit out in the Jeep watching the people and reading. Sometimes I'll go in and shop with him, but I love the fact that I no longer will have to go into stores and shop. Yeah, I hate shopping that much. While we both have hobbies and things we like to do separately, it's been much fun being able to drop what we're doing and take a drive or do a project together, like Christmas baking. Of course, that involves me baking and him taste testing the stuff coming out of the oven. He calls it quality control. It's been fun to be spontaneous with our plans. And each morning, after he feeds the dogs and I do my Tai Chi stretches, we meet up at the kitchen table for breakfast and chat about the day ahead. It may be about the weather for the day and maybe some news we've read online or just chit-chat. It's become a habit of ours over the past month. The two of us just taking some time to catch up, a little at a time. We haven't really been at the breakfast table together over the last 38 years. I think we both are getting into this retirement journey we've set out on. That day in the financial planner's office when we were rolling over our finances and setting up the stuff, we just looked at each other in excitement and absolute amazement. We did it. We're retired.